So this is how Kendall Shaw went from 2 failed agency attempts to making $25,000 a month in the space of 2 months with his agency. Now, one thing you're gonna find out very, very soon in the student interview is, although they were technically botched or failed agency attempts, Kendall took what he learned from each attempt at growing his agency and used those lessons to refine and make his agency what it is today. So yeah, Kendall's been through quite a lot. He's a super sharp dude, is used to working in an agency where he has multiple business partners. Now he's out on his own. And obviously you guys know that I have a very strong pulse over everyone inside the community. I kind of know pretty much everyone's stories. Whether they know it or not, I'm watching from afar always. And I can tell you Kendall is one very, very hardworking dude, puts his head down, doesn't make much noise until he can pop his head up. And that's really why he's been able to grow his agency from its birth, really only around 10 weeks or so ago, to $25,000 a month in recurring retainers while maintaining very, very healthy margins as well because of that fact right there. So you guys are in for one hell of an interview. I'll go ahead and roll that now. And once again, if you guys want to see more of these, go ahead, show me some support in the comment section and drop a like. And also, we're still pretty early on in these. Give me some feedback. Let me know, is there something you want me to press more on, less of? Do you guys want me to go more into mindset with these interviews, go more into operations, sales, service delivery? Because as I said, for me, these student interviews really is, I pretend like the camera isn't there. It's just the conversations I'm having with other successful agency owners within the student community. Either way, I just thought I'd start filming them. And for me, they're super interesting myself because I always want to stay ahead of the curve. I want to make sure that, there's no chance that my students are catching up to me. And if one of my students has an edge in one part of their agency, I definitely want to know too. So let me know what you guys want me to focus on in these student interviews, and let's roll it now. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another student interview. We are joined here with Kendall Shaw. So dude, thanks for jumping on.
For sure, man. It's nice to connect today. Looking forward to it.
There we go. So Kendall has a very interesting story, a story of, this is what I kind of love. I was telling you off camera about the student interviews, and I hope it's apparent in just the first however many I've decided to upload. But the last thing on earth I want from these student interviews is oh, you joined Agency Incubator and then you did this with your agency. Oh, and how did that change your life? And like I was saying off camera, the student interview is the conversations I actually have with my real life students. When there's no camera rolling, just one successful agency owner to another successful agency owner, and I'm like, I should probably film these. So I think there's a lot that people can learn from your experience. I think there's a lot. I think you had a lot holding you back as an agency owner. Then now obviously you've gone past in terms of the service delivery aspects of things. You've gone through being tied back. I think we lost for a second, but there we go. You were tied back with the whole service delivery side of things, with the business partner side of things. So real quick, just tell us a little bit about how you got exposed to the world of, having an agency and your journey since then.
Right. So I kind of got into the agency world, I guess, when I was around 17. I was just doing e-commerce, and I wanted to offer it as a business service to others, helping business owners grow with paid ads. So at first, I saw a couple courses, the Ty Lopez Here in My Garage ad. I feel like everyone's seen that ad. And so I tried to work with a couple of gym owners, closed them on $1,000, which was cool, but I didn't know how to get them any results. So that ended up failing pretty quickly. So
you didn't know how to get results, even though. Okay. So you got into e-commerce after.
Yeah. So then I got into e-commerce. Yeah, I got into e-commerce because I was like, if I can sell a product myself, then running ads for a business owner should be easy. And then we started running ads for myself. That did well. And then I was like, okay, if I can do that successfully, then I can run an agency. So I started 2 agencies actually that failed before I actually had my first, the agency that I run now is actually successful, actual business, So going through that whole 2-year process of trying to figure out who to listen to and right steps and how to really build a business, it's got me to where I am today, So it's been a process for sure.
Okay. So one thing that's very interesting there is you said you actually, from what I'm gathering, you decided to get into the world of e-commerce in order to be a better agency owner.
Yes, because like when I first started, like there wasn't much education. Like this was back when you first started YouTube probably as well. Like there wasn't much education out there about the agency space that was like legitimate, if that makes sense. Like people would have a course or they put information out that was like, hey, go close a business owner and
Here's
then
a summary from the web. The mic is muted.
Go close a business owner and then just run their ads on Facebook. Like it's something super simple, if that makes sense. So like I tried that and the sales part was easy.
There's been quite a few evolutions of sort of as a business model, because at the end of the day, like people don't realize like the whole like SMMA, like, people have inflated it to be this big, like sexy thing. It's like, no, it's super boring. You have a service-based business. Like having an agency, you can have a web development agency, you can have a email marketing agency, you can have an advertising agency. You're just running services for other people that bring them in a return on investment. And it's a very unsexy business model if we kind of strip it down to the brass tacks of it. But, but as you said, there's been kind of a few evolutions of SMA. The first thing is and that's kind of like, how I saw the market, and that's kind of how I started. Like the YouTube videos I would see, it was all like, oh, okay, you just sell a business owner and you just charge them $3,000 a month. And there's no reasoning behind that. Yeah, there's no context behind that fee. It's just like, oh, you charge them 1,000 or 3,000 or 5,000. And it wasn't really clear what you do for that. And then I feel as though, the people sort of teaching it kind of refined it, and they were like, okay, you charge this much because you're doing a revenue, you're delivering a service that actually brings in a clear definable ROI. And then now I feel as though it's, now you gotta, you really gotta step up. And there was a guy who runs this super big Facebook group that was interviewing me yesterday for agency owners. And I was talking about like, these days you gotta step up and be like an A1 service provider. Like you gotta go above what your role as an agency. And you gotta look at things like even, I talk about, a year and a half ago, I would have been under the impression that if you're running ads for a realtor and they're not closing the leads, well, you just go, well, fuck you. Like, the KPI that we're optimizing for is cost per lead. But these days it's like, okay, you can cry about it and you can protect your ego, or you could actually just help them close the leads, even though that's not part of your role. Same thing with us, with our info product clients. Like, yeah, we're not obliged to help them with their webinar or help them with their automation. But I got to a point where I realized like, I can cry about it. And, after the 3 month minimum, if they don't have their shit together as a business, I can cry about it. And yeah, I protect my ego. Or even though we're not paid for it, I can go ahead and I can build out a pre-built automation that I give to all my clients. And I can actually get Danny and Kieran to go through webinar, give them feedback. And you just, I said, and this is taking a real side tangent. We'll get back onto your story in a second. But, I like how you mentioned there that SMA has kind of taken an evolution in what that actually means as a service provider.
Yeah. And then kind of to go off what you said, like I do ads for realtors. So like, even like, it's not just about the leads, or not even just the leads, like what your service is doing. Because at the end of the day, if your service isn't making the business owner more money, then like you're not really like doing anything. You're just taking their money. It's all about
whether it's your fault or their fault. Whether it's your fault or their fault. And that's kind of the caveat there, which is like, you could be actually delivering them great leads, but if they're uneducated and they don't know how to actually turn those prospects into actual customers, yeah, you can cry about it, or you can just,
help them.
Just take into your own hand. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So you mentioned that you had 2 failed agencies, and, obviously without going into specifics or anything like that, if you don't want to,
no, I think you kind of like general overview, I guess.
Yeah. If you can touch on why did those fail?
Yeah. So the first one was like my very first marketing agency. The reason why it failed is because like I was like in the stage of entrepreneurship, I guess everyone goes through, where like they're still trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to do. Like I was trying to do Forex, cryptocurrency, an agency. I was still in high school. I ended up playing college lacrosse actually in America. So I was trying to become a Division I athlete. I had multiple girls I was talking to. So I was doing just way too much. On top of that, I had a business partner, and I tried to scale out with the sales team before I had like a couple clients. So I was just doing way too much, and just more of talking about doing something and then actually compared to doing it. So that was the first agency. I was very young at the time, so not really worried about that. The second agency, I helped scale it to multiple 6 figures. It's just I had a bunch of business partners, which means like, even if I made X, let's say if I brought in $30,000, I wouldn't even be getting $30,000 or significantly close to that in revenue. So having a bunch of business partners doing that. On top of that, I was also doing the sales and the service delivery. So having multiple business partners doing the service delivery, doing the sales, and then I felt like I had a job, and I probably did have a job, honestly. So I was there to build a business, not have a job, which is why like I kind of restructured my new agency, if that makes sense, to build the business to benefit me the most. Because that's the whole point of having the business, to benefit you, your lifestyle. There's obviously other businesses you can have partners in, but those are the kind of the two things I learned. Like, you don't need a partner. If you need a partner, like, they need to do the exact opposite of what you do, less of having someone that's just like there to support you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And a very common theme in and amongst agency incubator students is obviously there's the people that come in and they start with literally 0 clients, and they're starting from ground up. But a lot of the time, there's people who come to Agency Incubator, for example, such as yourself, who have experience pulling in 30, 40K a month in retainers. And, right. And people who come in and who have that experience, but then they actually have to kind of break apart the entire thing and take 3 steps backwards, in order to take 10 steps forward. And right. Can you kind of touch on, because we briefly talked about it. So as you removed yourself from that last agency that, you were involved with, and you decided to go solo, I think that's kind of when you got exposed to Agency Incubator.
Yeah.
And that's when that came into, when you thought I had
died. It was right around the launch. Yeah, it was right around the launch. I was actually in Miami with a close friend of mine. And I saw a launch, and I was like, yo, like, I'm just going to buy this. Cause like, props to you. Like, that was a really good course launch. Like, I've never seen anything like that. And it was a no brainer. Like, I just purchased it. Cause like, investing in yourself is always the best investment. Like, the ROI you can have on investment in yourself compared to like any other investment is like night and day. Like, you could have 10,000% ROI on an investment in yourself. So why not? So got the course. And I would say the biggest thing that I took from it, or kind of like after going through it, is like, I learned really how to structure my business so I can build an actual business, if that makes sense, and not just be like a freelancer because I know how to run ads myself. That's like a skill that I think everyone should learn how to do. Like, if you don't know how to do service delivery, at least know it well enough so you can see like if something's not working. So I was like, I don't want to be running ads all the time, just because I can't do that. So I found a great team of media buyers for Facebook and Google, which has allowed me to scale beyond what I would be able to do, because now I don't have to be trapped behind a computer, but they're good quality people that enjoy what they do. And I pay them amazing. So it's not like everyone's happy. And kind of just going through the course, like the sections on really like the day-to-day and your mindset, and like eliminating distractions. Cause at first, of the old agency, I worked with like media, like,
sorry.
I would come and work with you.
You cut out for like 10 seconds.
Okay. Yeah. I was saying at the old agency I was working with, I work with like really any type of business, and that just came with a headache, because there's so many different types of businesses, and getting results for each type of business is a nightmare itself when you don't have like a standard like operating procedure. So I said, okay, I'm only working with 2 types of businesses. E-commerce, just because I know e-commerce like the back of my hand. I have my own e-commerce stores, so that's easy for me. And then also real estate businesses, which is something I've been growing in recently rapidly. And after I kind of like eliminated like distractions and only focused on like those couple businesses, since we launched the new agency in officially like November, December-ish, and we've gone to 0 to 25K in monthly recurring revenue just by focusing on 2 niches. And I have some other stuff I do, like outbound outreach with like VAs and stuff, things like that. But it's really about relationships, I guess, like having good relationships with your clients. And if you get them results, they're happy, and they're going to bring you other business as well.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind me asking, of that 25,000 rev, how much of that are you actually
so I'd be taking home about 14 to 15K net profit. Just because I've been investing heavily back into the business recently, not only with staff, but like I have like some stuff I'm learning on how to like run YouTube ad funnels correctly. Just knowledge, I think that's important. Especially because like it's going to allow me to scale even faster since I have like the systems in place.
I guess one thing I should say is the cost associated to deliver those services. So just taking, because here's the thing, like for example, like you could be like netting 25 and then so you could be doing 25 rev and, you know, 1 month be taking home only 5 because you decided to spend 10K on a mastermind or this or that.
Right.
But I'm curious about like the 25 rev, but then software and staff, because really that's all you need as an agency to operate.
Yeah, I would say it's 65, 70% net profit, just around that number. So I would say 16K, like 8 to 9K of that is for software and staff.
Okay, amazing. Now, one thing that you mentioned there is you mentioned you have a couple media buyers.
Right.
And they're not full-time, are they?
No, not full-time.
My question to you is, do you have one media buyer for your e-commerce clients and one media buyer for your real estate clients?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why. All right. Yeah, I was just wondering why you hadn't just hired like one full-time. But
yeah,
okay,
just because like we have a lot of clients that we just brought on these last couple of months. So like after we sign them on like a 6 to 12 month contract, after like the first couple months, that's when we usually will probably most likely put the media buyers just like on a full-time salary, just because we already have the clientele for that to make sense, like on the specific accounts and stuff.
Amazing. So how do you go about because obviously you found 2 great media buyers. So there's 2 parts of the question. Right. First of all, how did you find your media buyers?
Right. I would say first, like not having results yourself. I think because a lot of media buyers, like, especially with the ones that people that I've talked to, they just don't want to work with an agency that you're like, yo, make sure you have your own case studies so I can just use them to close clients. Like, because don't be wrong, that works. But like, if like, for example, like how you say in your program, like the unicorns, like people that are actually like really, really freaking good at what they do, they're not just going to want you to send case studies and then just like you go and close them. So it's really about knowing
to be honest, that's everyone in the world. That's when you're hiring talent. Like it took me almost 2 years to convince Kieran to work for me. Right. I remember there was one point in 2017 where I actually offered him a percentage of the agency, and he basically just ghosted me. And I was like, and it literally that started almost a 2 year endeavor to try and hire him full time, because Kieran is a unicorn. You know, everyone in my team is a unicorn. And you get to a point where, like, as you said, and that's the thing, if you don't have crazy results, you're gonna have to deal with having okay to good media buyers. But as you said, if you want those unicorns, you know, and it's in the same way, you know, you're not gonna get someone who is just people who are incredibly talented. They don't want to work at some shitty new startup if they could work at Apple or Google. Exactly.
So that's the first thing. It's like, that's why if you get results really are everything. If you can get your clients results, not only is that going to help you get more clients, right? Like, for example, we have a client that we spent $35K on ads. We made them $160K back on return revenue. So if I post that, I'm saying, hey, I'm looking for a contractor to work on this account that we got them good results on, you're going to get a lot quality people. So first thing I would say is, like, at least try and learn how to do the fulfillment yourself. You don't have to do it, but at least learn it enough so you can kind of see, like, okay, this contract, not a contract. I don't like saying contractor. This person, if they're going to be a part of my team.
I say team member.
Yeah. You can see what's good or bad. But the way I found them, I just was posting in Facebook groups and just like offering people value and, like, you know, really trying to build relationships. Like, the agency space is really based on relationships because it's kind of a give and take business model. So just really, for the contractors that I found, one of them I knew just because they already did e-commerce in the past. So I was like, yo, I have a couple accounts, let's work. And then the person I ended up finding for real estate, I just ended up going back and forth with like a week and a half, just talking, getting to know them before I decided to say, yo, come work with me, you know?
Mm-hmm. And so you have 2 quality team members now. How many did you have to go through? Were you just kind of hit both, did you just manage to get both spot on immediately, or did you have to go through a few?
Yeah, you definitely have to vet people. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like,
I don't mean vet. I mean, as in like they actually handle client accounts.
Oh yeah, I know that definitely took a while, because the biggest thing with me is like trust, like, especially since like this is a remote business. Like, I don't want to put the fate of my business in someone's hands if I can't trust them and vet them and see them. So I had a couple accounts that I was working on at first on the e-commerce side. And I was like, okay, like, tell me what you think that you would do differently on this account. Like I sent them access, got on a Zoom. I was like, here's this account. We spent XYZ. Here's the results. If I was to hand this to you, what would you do differently to improve the business? Asking like really specific questions. That's kind of what I did at first. And then after I had trust and dialogue and NDA was signed, like after all that stuff, I was like, okay, like here's your account. Like I'll pay you. And then, so it took like a month before I actually handed over some accounts, which was last month. So this is the first month of me like actually not having to be in service delivery 100%, which is like, it's just changed my life. Like I don't have to run ads anymore. So I can just do like other things, you know?
Mm-hmm. And, you know, you mentioned there are other things, and you heard you talked about it off camera, but you said Google ads. So is that Google ads to generate leads for your agency?
That's in the process of launching. We're gonna be launching it for real estate in the coming week or so. I've just been getting like all this week and this month, I've been getting like all the systems and processes in place, so I can basically have, if someone becomes a client, all the way to getting them their ads launched, pretty much all that onboarded. Not onboarded, automated. So once that's done, then I pretty much will be able to scale pretty much.
Okay, amazing. Now with e-commerce, it's a little more black and white. It's a little more black and white because you and the client technically don't even really need to get along. Like there's a lot more leeway because things are so black and white. It's like spend this much, made this much. Whereas a lot of times in some senses, it can be harder to retain clients long-term when you're doing lead generation for them, because everything can be skewed. You know, there's so many things that can be said in terms of lead quality, that it's a little more difficult to prove. So my question is, what methods do you employ to make sure that, quite clearly, it seems like you've got good retention rates with your real estate clients.
Lead gen clients?
So is there anything you do? Is there anything you implement? Do you give them some sort of training? Like I've told people in the past, like for example, as I said, I have a full automation that clients get when we go through their webinar, which is not included in the service fee. And if they ask, I'll tell them it's not included because you got to set those expectations correctly. Once again, always client delight. Danny, Kieran, they'll go through webinar, give pages of notes, and then if it's really shaky, their webinar automations, then we'll just go ahead, and I've actually built out my entire webinar automation on ActiveCampaign, the one that I have inside of Infusionsoft, and I give it to them, and Kieran will fill in some emails as well for them. So that's one thing that we do with info clients of ours. With e-commerce, there's not really much you can do, but if I was to have like a real estate, if I was working with a real estate niche, I would actually create my own 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-hour course, give every single client that for free on how to shorten the time between the lead coming in and the first touch point with the client, as well as some sales stuff, as well as like, just general, as well as, how to do how to write some weekly emails to make sure that, I think it's slightly here. Okay, I think we're back. Yeah, as well as how to actually write some emails, because we're spending money on those leads. Say we're spending $5,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month on those leads. If they could write 3-4 emails a week, once again, just to stay in front of that audience, and that just literally will only account to bottom line. So my point is, like, I think there's so many things you can do as an agency owner to just help your client, and that really improves retention rate. Is there anything that you guys do?
Yeah, so we specifically kind of have it set up, like, I would say our system is set up so they know automatically like when to reach out to the leads. As soon as we get a lead opt-in, like we do the qualifying for them. So we have a chatbot sequence that already qualifies the leads. Like you have like basically asking if they have a lender, if they like what their budget is, where they're looking to move, their time frame, because internet leads for real estate usually convert like 1% to 2%. That's usually the average. So what we also do is after they're qualified, that lead actually books a phone call in the realtor's calendar. And then we always tell our clients, like, as soon as you get a lead, like call them immediately. If they don't pick up, they usually leave them like a ringless voicemail. And then a lot of my clients, we actually recommend them sending mailers to the leads, just because it's kind of going a step above and beyond when you have a lead that you get and you send them direct mail. So my clients have like books, they send their leads like immediately.
Especially when it's so high ticket, it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And
For a chiropractor to do it, it would be a little overkill, but in that case, as you said, it's way above and beyond.
Yeah. And then for the luxury realtors, especially for the luxury real estate, because their return, a lot of my clients are getting like, I don't know what it is in London, but my luxury clients are getting like 7% on the transaction.
In London, it's totally a different ball game.
Yeah. So they're getting
like sometimes I watch $1 million listing, and I'm just like, and they sell like a $4 million house, and they're getting like some crazy commission. I'm like, what the?
Yeah. So that, and then also, I have a full admin team. So I have one full-time VA. I'm actually going to be bringing on another. So my VAs will just like remind the clients like, hey, like if we got XYZ many leads, like at the end of the day, we'll follow up with them saying like, hey, did you make sure that you reached out to this lead, this lead, this lead, this lead? If not, here's their numbers. Just like kind of doing our due diligence. But I definitely think, the course idea, giving a course, like a mini course to your clients about like using your system and how to maximize it kind of will not only improve the results, but like also improve your retention rate. That's something I never thought about.
Also something that you do, and it's, it's something I teach, something I'm going to be teaching in the higher level program coming out, but just things you can do once. Like, yes, it was excruciating to take everything that I had inside of Infusionsoft. It took me 5 days to get it put in an active campaign, but I did it once and it's there forever. So something that you can do once and it's applicable to every single client, I think is like so valuable. And I think it yields a very high ROI when you think about the added lifetime value that the retention will bring you. So that's that. Right. The next thing that I wanted to touch on is, do you think that as you scale, there's going to be issues, the fact that you've got obviously your e-commerce clients and your real estate clients, and which one do you see more potential in?
Yeah. So right now for me, I definitely see more potential in the real estate side, just because for e-commerce, I have a couple of my own e-commerce brands. So the I'm going to be making sure my team's working on my own brands, because why not? They'll be incentivized. They'll probably get a percentage of the brands. And then I have a couple e-commerce clients that are like on long-term contracts right now, and I really like their brands and like we align together. So I don't really have a need to. E-commerce clients take a lot of time and energy to manage, just because if your ads are performing on the ads manager like for hours. So I don't see myself scaling that up.
Plus one thing that I just want to mention with that is, with info product and info product slightly less, but it depends on how much of their total revenue pie is brought in through paid traffic. If you're underperforming for an e-commerce client, they will fuck you up, because more than likely their entire business is based off of their paid traffic. And same thing with a lot of info product businesses, most of their revenue is brought in through paid traffic. Whereas if you're talking to a realtor, like they have their entire successful business built, and then this is something that's kind of latched on as an extra stream of revenue, but they're used to, they're good no matter what. Whereas, as you said, like a lot of these e-commerce businesses, like they're on your ass because like that's their entire business pretty much.
Yeah. So, and also my mom's a realtor. So she just got her license a couple of months ago. So like we're about to start running ads for her, and like
that's dope.
I'm really excited about that, because like it's my mom. Like why not? So
do you do a friends and family discount?
I mean, yeah. We'll give her the Maybach Media discount. But no, so I just see real estate for me being a little more scalable as well, just because since we already have like each e-commerce business is different. Whereas with most realtors that we work with, they've never run ads, or they've never had any deals closed for marketing on ads. So we already have the SOPs, which is like standard operating procedures. Like if I close a client like this, these are the exact ads that we're launching for them. So it's going to be a lot more automated, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So now you are at 25,000 a month. What do you think you need to do to get to 50,000 a month?
I would say just automations, and then honestly pay traffic. I think that's going to allow me to, I think YouTube specifically, just because I've never ran YouTube ads before, and I'm super excited to test it out. But I would say automations, so I don't have to do all the manual stuff like the onboarding and then all of that stuff. Because once that's done, it's just about really cranking out the phone calls and just scaling. I mean, I think that's really the goal. It's 50K a month is like 20 to 15 new realtors. So I think we can definitely make that happen this year.
And how much are you charging your realtor clients at the moment?
Yeah, so it goes between $1,500 and $5,000 a month. It just depends on their location and also if they're luxury or not luxury. Because luxury realtors, their return on investment is ridiculous.
Okay. So, and out of curiosity, how much do the luxury realtors you're charging $5,000 a month for, and the non-luxury? Okay, so let's say on average $4,000, and then the regular ones is $2,000.
Yeah.
In terms of actual time it takes to get them results, is there any discrepancy there, or do they take the same amount of time for your media buyers?
No, it definitely takes this. I say the luxury just takes a little more because their cost per lead is a little higher. But for the resident, we get results like literally like the first week we launched the ads for the lower, because like it's more like the home pricing, like 150 to 400K, 400K plus, like it's going to be a little bit longer.
I don't mean in terms of getting results. I mean, you as an agency, how long does it take to actually, basically how much time do you spend on that client monthly? Is it the same, or is it more for the?
It's the same. It's about the same, really. Just about, give or take. I would say actually the residential side, the lower end is definitely less, but I'd say overall it's like the same. It's not that much time once we get the ads up, just kind of making sure the system's working. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Only reason I asked that is basically just, as you're looking to scale to, 50,000 a month, that is obviously something that you need to keep into consideration. Cause obviously, same thing for us. Like the funny thing is for us, a client that we charge 8,000, 7,800 pounds a month to, or 9,500 pounds a month to, will always take us less time than a client that we're charging. Recently in the past 6 months, we started doing 2,500 pounds a month plus 25% return on ad spend. Because that smaller retainer, it's always a smaller retainer for a reason. It's always a small retainer because the client just doesn't have their business sorted in the same way that the client that we're charging 7,800, 6,800, 9,500 pounds a month to does. So I think as I said, as you scale, as you scale without adding too much complexity, without having to have a staff of a ton of different media buyers. If you could charge your average luxury realtor client $4,000 USD a month, and I'm sure your media buyer can handle 6 accounts a month. That's possible. Yeah. I mean,
I think, well, with the mini chatbot as well, it kind of like makes everything pretty easy. Cause like once we set the ads up, it's just like we have the interests that work for their area. And then you just it's like kind of clicking the buttons, boop, 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 boop. And then it's good to go. So I think the media buyer that we're working with on the real estate side should be able to handle like probably 10 accounts realistically before we have to get in and bring someone else on.
I think for sure, we do info and e-commerce, and Danny, we found that like past 9 that's where issues start to arise. 9 is like pushing it, but it's still, we can still have it load balanced. But as I said, we're doing info products and e-commerce. So for you guys at real estate, I have no doubts that you guys can do, one media buyer can handle 10 accounts a month. So, they're bringing 40,000 a month. The way I tell people to grow their agency, GrowYourAgency.com, but it's through clusters. Is by building out clusters. And I think we're breaking up here. Right. Okay, we're back. Yeah, it's through these clusters. Yeah, I think we're back now. It's through these clusters. So, if you can get your media buyer managing 10 accounts, and as long as you can fill up his client load, you got 2 media buyers managing 10 accounts each, and that's 80,000 a month in revenue. Because my only concern for you, and my only, the thing that kind of like gets to me when, people tell me about their plans on scaling with lower price points, is the fact that, look, I mean, if you're charging 1,500 a month and you're trying to scale to 50K a month, then you got to have what, like 30 plus clients. Just pain in the ass.
Lots to manage.
Or what, even more? Yeah. So 30 something, I don't know. But so, it seems like there's a lot of potential in those luxury realtors.
Yeah. I mean, and the end goal is, once we're about to scale, we might even just go to strictly being like also getting a percentage of the homes sold, like the commission, if that makes sense. Especially once like we're really dialing in everything as well. Because once the results are already there, like our clients are working with now are getting even better results, then it just makes sense. Like, hey, we've gotten you 5 homes sold this year. We'll bump the retainer up, or we'll just put a performance fee on there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, I think that's been a pretty good interview. Just kind of wrap up. If there's one piece of advice you give yourself when you first started your agency, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. I would honestly say, read the book, The Slight Edge. That's honestly, I would say, because I was reading that book and it kind of transformed how I went and thought about like my day to day, I guess. And just focus on one thing, like focus on one thing, which is like one niche or just one thing, and just go all in on it, because the man who chases 2 rabbits doesn't catch any. So you got to focus on scaling one thing, one business, not 10,000 businesses, so that'd be one good piece of advice.
There we go. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for your time. I know everyone appreciated some of those golden nuggets, and yeah, good luck on your way to 50,000 a month.
Yes, sir. That's the goal.